Hello, I'm Darren LeBuke of VL Photography, and this is my backyard. Okay, so today I thought we'd talk about lenses. Different lenses that you might use for toy photography. I have 3 lenses that I'm primarily using right now to do the toy photos. We have the macro lens for some up close work. We have the portrait lens, which is a 24-105 zoom lens, and it is an f4. These are of course Canon because that's what I'm shooting with. And right here under the Stormtrooper we have the 50mm. Now you might wonder why I would use the 50mm when I have the zoom that would use the 50mm, and that's because it goes down to a 1.8 f-stop, so you can get a nice blur out effect with that. So depending on the shot that I want to create, I'll flip back and forth between the 3 different lenses that I have. And primarily the camera that I'm using to shoot the photos with is the Canon 6D Mark II, which has a nice low light capability, allowing me to do some nighttime shots that might not be capable with some other cameras. Okay, so I wanted to start off with this shot here, just down at the end of my hall. If it happens to be echoey on the sound, I have Yoda here set up. Just zoom in here on him. There he is, sitting in some moss. I use the black paper to get a darker look, as if it's at night in the swamp, as well as a fog machine. I'm thinking we might spray him with a little bit of water to give that swamp look to it as well. And he's just tied up in some Christmas lights, and we're gonna see what kind of shot that turns out. Okay, so next we're out here in the woods just to get the green that I would like, because we're going to do a shot of the plastic patroller. Not sure if you can see him there because he's green, so he's camouflaged. I'll show you up close what it looks like. But we're actually going to use the zoom lens, and something I do when I'm doing the toy photos so I can get down on the same level as the toy is I'll flip the tripod upside down and run it up the other way so that the camera sits almost on the ground. It allows you to get under the photo or like on the same level as the toy. So that's what we're up to now. I chose the zoom lens just because of his size and how close I wanted the lens. Now holding the sparkler closer to the lens makes it blur out and bokeh opposite, so instead of having the blur out behind him, it has the blur out in front of him, so it allows you to make it look like there's an explosion off in front of him, like he's firing his weapon. Anyway, that's the plan. Here we're going to do the same thing with the sparkler where we make it go off, but I stood the Samurai out on a rock in this little creek bed here with the branch going behind him, and we're going to use a 50mm because I want to get a nice bokeh, so we turned it down to 2.8, which is lower than the zoom lens can go, so that way I get some nice crisp circles in behind him from the light and also in front of him from the using the sparkler. So okay, we came down to the beach because I needed to set up for desert. We're going to use the Luke Skywalker's speeder in the desert, maybe do a couple of the other little models in the sand as well. So that means we have moved to the macro lens, so you can maybe see the speeder right there, and we're going to see what we can get with the macro lens and using these little tiny models. This shot here, we've gone back to the 50mm. I have Bryce Wayne, who is Batman in I forget what universe, and she's also the Aquaman character, so she's a little crossover, like 3 different things in one. So we're going to do a picture of her coming out of the water. She's just barely touching the water, so we're going to splash water, use a really high 1000 on the shutter, and I'll put the settings up of course as normal, but that way it looks like the water's rising up around her. So here we go. So I had a lot of people asking how I did a certain shot of the droid lifting the stormtrooper in the air, and I just thought I'd address how that shot happened. So I took a piece of wood dowel that I have here and I flattened the one edge so that it could fit up underneath the armor of the trooper, and then I leaned him up against the wall so he was elevated up off the ground, so that way I could make the droid look like he was lifting him. And then in Lightroom I used the spot editor and I just erased the wood dowel, and then as I took the shot I sprinkled a little bit of dirt towards him, just like flipping it with my hand, and that allowed the shot. So I'm going to recreate that just so that you guys can see how it's done. So I've showed an assortment of different lenses that you can use if you have a DSLR. If you don't, remember that you can always do some of these shots with a phone or get creative with your phone as well. Don't think that just because you don't have a DSLR you can't create images with your phone that you have. Just make sure you're enjoying yourself and what you're creating. So remember, like, comment, share if you want to share, subscribe. That one's important. Remember to subscribe. And if you like these videos or want to see more, make sure you give me a comment down below telling me what you look forward to and maybe what I could do that you would enjoy. Anyway, we'll talk to you next time.